sounding complex. Where did you first realize that you had a passion for media, and when did sort of that vision originate, and did it come from anything else?
Well, that's wow. There's a lot to unpack there. Okay, so I'll try and give you the elevator version. Number one, I've always been fascinated by media because I started out. All my passions lied in marketing. Found that out in college, and I just loved narrative building. And by the way, that's just a little bit more sophisticated version of the word storytelling, right? But it's more intentional. If you really think about that, because there's a lot of people who are just naturally good orators. And then if you're able to build a narrative, not just on your own self, but on behalf of other people and brands, that to me is, narrative building. And to me, that's the definition of marketing, real marketing, not like arbitrage shit, but like real, you've heard of a guy named David Ogilvy, very
I
famous.
haven't. I need to though.
Okay. Wow. Oh my God. So go read his book, number one. He's the king of advertising. The Ogilvy Advertising Company, Ogilvy and Mather, was he's infamous. And literally he defined advertising as the ability to change people's hearts and minds. And I heard that when I was in college and fell in love with that, like off the charts. So for me, that I realized that was a talent of mine, but B, it was also a passion. And when you can combine a good talent with a passion, that's the direction to move in. So I was very lucky to start my career at Saatchi & Saatchi, and I worked on some of the biggest brands in the world. I worked on Procter. I worked on Procter's flagship Tide. And then, literally, I was just some snot-nosed kid at 21 years old getting a shot like that. I took it for complete granted. I had no business having that job. And I did everything in my power to learn as much as I could, because that was my grad school. That was my MBA.
Hey, it's probably a lot better than actually going and getting an MBA too.
That was back in the, I'm old, right? I'm 49. So for me, yeah, let's not talk about that again, okay?
I was going to say, that's young.
Dude, it's not the age. It's not the age, it's the mileage. And you will understand this. No, but you laugh, but you want, like, not to go off on a tangent here, but it's an important thing to talk about, is everybody talks about entrepreneurship and, being your own boss and taking advantage of all these things. And there is a lower barrier to entry to all of that than there ever has been before. But be careful what you ask for, because when you take on that level of responsibility to build a company and build yourself up and all those things, rather than being a part of a larger entity, you are in this thing 24/7. Every decision is yours, and every result that comes from those decisions, you have to own. And that takes friggin' years off your life. It just does, especially if you care. If you care about your team, you care about the way you go about things, and you want to do it, not just be successful, but do it right. It's a lot. So, I kid around, but like, it's just, entrepreneurialism is nowhere near as sexy as everybody likes to think it is. You know what's sexy about entrepreneurialism? Successful ones' results. That's sexy as hell. It is sexy as hell to live in a big, beautiful home and drive really cool cars and be able to travel and have experiences. But that's the results. There is nothing sexy about the entrepreneurial journey.
Unless you love what you're doing, though. That's fun. Maybe not sexy, but it is fun.
I love my job, but the weight of those decisions and the amount of constant vision building and then iterative execution is just, dude, it's a weight that very few people should actually want to take on.
And fewer than I think do. Like, if something goes well in your company, it's our win. But if something goes wrong, it's your loss.
Always. And by the way, that's the way you should be as a leader, whether it's the leader of the entire company or the leader of a team or a department. At the end of the day, and I say that not just from a motivational perspective, but literally, I grew up this way. Like, my father never let me in any time when I was like, something went wrong, my team lost or whatever, like if you ever start a conversation pointing a finger out, he goes, your goal should be to start this way. And if you start this way, believe me, every single other person on that team, even if they're finger pointers themselves, will look at you as their leader because they know and understand subconsciously or consciously that this is the real leader of the team.
Wow.
Period.
That's
End of
an
story.
amazing piece of advice.
It's just true. Like, and honestly, look, I have 2 daughters. I operate when I make really tough decisions and I'm thinking about the impact it's going to have on my, not just the P&L, but even more the staff and, you know, the readers, the consumers we're dealing with is, did I do it? It's not just why and what we decided, but how is this going to happen? And it's really nice to be able to be proud when you look at your kids to be able to tell them how this went down, or look yourself in the mirror at night and go, I did right by everybody within this situation. That is not a nice to have as a leader. That is an absolute fundamental have to have.
Yeah.
So sorry, I went way off on a tangent.
No, that was amazing. That was a great tangent. I can tell how passionate you are about it, and it's all super important things, you know, to keep in mind in a day and age where entrepreneurship is so glorified online. You know, even when I was first getting into the world of doing my own things, that's how I saw it because that's how it was depicted to me. I saw it as, you know, an infographic. That's
Right.
clearly what I thought entrepreneurship was. It was like, oh, you multiply these numbers and then you live in a mansion.
Right, exactly.
But what was I thinking? Granted, I was like 13, but that's how it's depicted to the youth. So I think it's important that people like yourself and myself are, you know, actually, you know, dishing out how it is on the front end of things so that their realistic expectations and people can be more successful.
Right. And I mean, it's also different. And, you know, think about it this way. You're doing 2 things at the same time. You're building your own individual brand and a company, right? And those require different skill sets as well. Like you can afford to be much more selfish by doing your own thing. Like if you were just being a creator yourself, like just a creator versus trying to build, you can't afford to be selfish on the second side of that by building a real company where you're going to have other employees and things like that. Those are also people being cognizant of what their strengths and weaknesses are and being intelligent, like intellectually intelligent enough and honest enough to go what they should and could do versus who they are in, organically. Like you got to think about that stuff.
Also at points before, like once you're able to delegate things, everything obviously gets a lot easier once you're actually able to hire people. But for
if you hire the right people.
You hire the right people. But before that, when it's just you, knowing your strengths and weaknesses is even, you know, exponentially more important, you know? So I think, you know, all of that is definitely things to be aware of.